There are ways for companies to pay the right amount of tax.
Okay, so Mark, first of all, welcome to the studio.
Thank you.
Now let's start off kind of right at the beginning. What can you tell us about why multinationals are taxed the way in which they are?
Well, it's an interesting question. Like some things in life, it's an area that has a fair degree of complexity. There's a lot of technical rules that get involved, which is the reason why I think people tend to sort of roll their eyes when you mention corporate taxation, for good reason. On the other hand, it's an area that once you understand the framework which has been developed, which has really been done globally, it's very straightforward, and it's naturally interesting, I think, because it relates to directly how companies do business.
Now, I think one of the things, if you start talking about companies and, different of well-known brands which we've seen have been under scrutiny because of their tax kind of governance, their procedures, the way that they're going about their business. But why do you think there has been such an interest of late in these multinational companies? It's
because I think there has been a perception, which I think is not entirely incorrect, that companies have been not paying their fair share of tax in the countries where they do business. And in some cases, companies have been engaging in transactions and planning strategies to reduce their taxes in ways which people generally, I think, tend to view as artificial. And I think it's been a natural reaction that the companies that we look up to and the brands that we consume and we support ought to be companies that are pay their fair share of tax and support society. It does seem to be a sort of change in mentality towards it, doesn't it? People are have higher expectations of the companies which they, as you say, they support, they feel they resonate with. Very much.
And then all of a sudden, they feel quite let down when they find out that things aren't quite, above or going by the book at these brands.
Right, very much so. And I think this has been a realization that probably has been late in coming. When I first started working in this field, I never imagined that I would be working on projects and taking decisions, making recommendations that would potentially impact how my employer, how the companies I worked for were perceived publicly. But in fact, that is very much the case now, and probably should have been the case years ago. There are ways for companies to pay the right amount of tax. And there are ways for companies to be viewed as paying the right amount of tax, which are not difficult, and which I think ultimately create value for the shareholders that's going to be a much larger number than the amount of taxes that companies can save by engaging in artificial transactions.
Okay, well, Mark, I think we'll move on to some of those other points in the next instalment. But for the moment, thank you very much for giving us this introduction.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, that's all from Mark and myself for this introductory look at the whys of corporate tax. Next, we'll be looking at the hows. See you soon.